Bitchy wife's brutal lies and cheating blew up my life. So my cold, calculated revenge cost her everything. Her epic meltdown was priceless. Reddit confession. Throw I never thought I'd be posting here, honestly. My life was normal, boring even, in the best possible way. Or so I thought. I'm Mark, 38M, and my wife, Sarah, is 37F. We've been together since high school, literally half our lives. Built a home, stable careers, a dog, the whole picture-perfect suburban dream. Everyone always said we were the couple that would last. I believed it with every fiber of my being. But about 6 months ago, things started to shift. Not a sudden, dramatic explosion, but a slow, insidious creep. Sarah, who was always so open, so there with me, started getting distant. Her phone became an extension of her hand, often face down or strategically angled away from me. She'd spend more and more time working late or out with friends I barely knew or hadn't heard her mention in years. When I asked about her day, it was always a vague shrug, a curt fine, or a sudden change of subject. I tried to brush it off, told myself she was stressed with her new project at work or maybe just needed more me time, whatever that means. I try to be supportive, ask if everything was okay, offer to help around the house more. She'd just snap, tell me I was being smothering or that I needed to stop making everything about me. Yeah, even then, I still defended her in my head, thinking I was the one who was probably overthinking things. God, I was such an idiot. This is just the beginning of how naive I was. I guess I just wanted to believe in the life we'd built so much. I ignored all the glaring red flags waving right in front of my face. The red flags eventually became an entire damn parade. One evening, Sarah was working late again. She'd left her laptop open on the kitchen counter, which was unusual. Normally, it was guarded like the crown jewels. I walked past it to grab a glass of water, and a notification popped up on the screen, a message from a dating app. My stomach dropped to my feet. It wasn't just a generic ad. It was a specific message preview from someone called Hot Stuff Greg. My heart hammered against my ribs. I just knew what it meant, but my brain was still trying to rationalize it. Maybe it was an old account, forgotten, a prank from a friend? I clicked on it. The app opened, and there it was, an active profile, recent messages, and pictures. Pictures of her, posing in ways she hadn't posed for me in years. And then the messages. Oh God, the messages. Flirty, intimate, talking about meeting up. One message, in particular, from Hot Stuff Greg, mentioned our little secret and can't wait to see you tomorrow night, same place. My hands were shaking so bad, I almost dropped the laptop. I scrolled further, a morbid curiosity overriding the nausea. It wasn't just Greg. There were others. Multiple conversations, some just casual flirtation, others much more explicit. My world crumbled right there in our perfectly normal kitchen. The air left my lungs, and I felt like I was going to throw up. All those late nights, all those vague excuses, all the "you're smothering me" comments, it all clicked into place with a sickening thud. It wasn't stress. It wasn't me time. It was betrayal. And it was brutal. I just sat there, staring at the screen, unable to move, unable to breathe. My entire history with her, our supposed future, all felt like a lie. Every shared laugh, every quiet evening, every future plan we'd ever made together, tainted, dissolved into nothingness by these cold, digital words on a screen. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling like my soul was being ripped out. An hour, maybe two. When Sarah finally got home, around 10:30 p.m., she breezed in with a chirpy, "Hey babe, long day?" and immediately went to put her purse down, then froze when she saw me still sitting at the kitchen island, the laptop open in front of me. Her eyes widened, scanning from the screen to my face, then back to the screen. The color drained from her face faster than I've ever seen. "Mark? What are you doing?" she asked, her voice thin and reedy. I just pointed at the laptop. Care to explain Hot Stuff Greg? Or our little secret? Or the half-dozen other dudes you're apparently juggling on the side? My voice was flat, devoid of emotion, which honestly scared even me. I expected to be yelling, screaming, but it was just this hollow echo. She stammered, "What are you talking about? That's nothing. It's an old account, I swear. Just some silly thing from before we got serious. I must have forgotten to delete it." Her eyes darted around the room, anywhere but mine. Old account. I scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. Sarah, the messages are from this week. This morning. You think I'm stupid? You think I wouldn't see the date stamps? Her facade cracked a little. Okay, it's not what it looks like. It's just harmless flirting. Mark, I swear. I've been feeling a bit down, a bit neglected, and I just needed some attention. It's not real. It never went anywhere. She started crying then, big, theatrical tears, trying to reach for my hand. I pulled away. Neglected? Neglected? I ask you every day how your day was. I try to talk to you, to connect. And you snap at me. Tell me I'm smothering you. Tell me I'm making everything about me. All while you're out there talking about our little secret and meeting other guys tomorrow night, same place? You're a pathological liar, Sarah. She kept going, the excuses tumbling out. It's a misunderstanding. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean any of it. It was just a moment of weakness. It'll never happen again, I promise. Please, Mark, please don't leave me. The tears were flowing freely, but they felt utterly hollow to me. All I could see was the deceit, the manipulation. It was like looking at a stranger. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I loved, was a complete fabrication. And the brutal truth was, she was an amazing actress. The confrontation was a blur of her tears and my detached disbelief. After her initial flurry of pathetic excuses, I just shut down. I couldn't even look at her anymore. The woman I'd spent half my life with was now a stranger, a caricature of deceit. The anger, which had been simmering, suddenly boiled over into a cold, hard rage. But beneath the rage, a gaping chasm of pain had opened up. It was like being hit by a truck, then having that truck back up over you a few times for good measure. Every memory, every sweet moment, every future plan we'd ever made was instantly poisoned. I remembered our wedding day, the vows, the innocent belief in forever. Now, it all felt like a sick joke, a performance where I was the only unwitting participant. The trust wasn't just broken, it was annihilated, atomized. I spent the next few days in a fog. I went to work, but I don't remember what I did. I ate, but I didn't taste anything. Sarah tried to talk, tried to apologize, tried to touch me. I flinched away from her every time. Her presence in the house, in my house, felt like a violation. The smell of her perfume, the sound of her voice, it all grated on my nerves like fingernails on a chalkboard. I moved into the guest room, just to escape her proximity. The pain was physical, a constant, aching throb in my chest. My stomach was in knots. I couldn't sleep, or when I did, I was plagued by nightmares of her with these men. The worst part wasn't even the sex, though that was a gut punch. It was the emotional betrayal, the sheer audacity of her lies, the casual disrespect for everything we'd built. She didn't just cheat on me. She demolished my perception of our shared reality. The emotional impact was an earthquake, leveling everything I thought was solid ground. I was adrift in a sea of despair and bitter resentment, feeling utterly alone despite sharing a house with the person who caused it all. It was the deepest, most profound sense of loneliness I've ever experienced. I kept asking myself, how could she? How could my Sarah? But the Sarah I knew was gone. This woman was just Sarah, and she was a monster. By the way, if you're finding this story relatable or just utterly insane, consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. It helps a lot, and there's more where this came from. After a few days of barely existing, something in me snapped. The initial shock and raw, debilitating pain started to transmute into something else, a cold, hard resolve. I wasn't just sad anymore. I was furious. Furious at her, yes, but also furious at myself for being so blind, so stupidly trusting. I realized that crying and wallowing wasn't going to change anything. It wasn't going to bring back the old Sarah, because that Sarah never truly existed. I knew, with absolute certainty, that working on the marriage was not an option. Not for me. The trust was obliterated, the foundation shattered beyond repair. Every apology from her sounded like another lie. Every tear felt manipulative. She even tried to blame me again, saying if I'd been more attentive, more anything, she wouldn't have strayed. That was the final nail in the coffin of any lingering doubt. My decision was made. I was done. Completely. But done wasn't enough for me. My thoughts, which had been chaotic and heartbroken, slowly began to coalesce into a singular, dark purpose. I realized I wasn't going to let her walk away from this clean. She had brutalized me emotionally, shattered my life, and then tried to gaslight me about it. The word brutal kept echoing in my head. If she could be brutal in her deceit, I could be brutal in my resolution. My initial thought was divorce, swift and merciless. But that felt too easy for her. Too clean. She'd get her half, walk away, and probably continue her sordid little life without a scratch. And that was simply unacceptable. I needed her to understand the depth of her actions, to feel some fraction of the pain she had inflicted. The legal path felt inadequate to convey the sheer magnitude of her betrayal. My anger demanded more. My broken heart demanded more. This wasn't just about ending a marriage. It was about evening the scales. And I started to brainstorm exactly how I was going to do that, piece by meticulous piece. The man who sat in that guest room was no longer the naive Mark who ignored red flags. He was someone else entirely. And he had a plan. A very, very brutal plan. My plan began with a chilling clarity. Sarah was a creature of comfort and superficiality. She loved our lifestyle, our house, her expensive car, the illusion of success. Taking that away, or at least making it incredibly difficult for her to maintain, seemed like the logical first step. The first move was practical, not emotional. I immediately went to our joint bank accounts and transferred half of everything into a new, separate account in my name. I also set up alerts for any large transactions on the joint accounts that I hadn't already zeroed out. Then, I quietly contacted a divorce lawyer, but not to file immediately. I needed advice on how to proceed in a way that would maximize my advantage and minimize hers, especially concerning assets and public perception. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Eleanor, looked at me with a mix of sympathy and grim understanding when I laid out the whole cheating saga. She advised me to gather every shred of evidence I could, not just the laptop screenshots. So, I became a detective in my own home. I installed a discreet camera in the living room, pointed subtly at her main charging spot for her phone. I knew she'd be careful, but I was banking on her eventual sloppiness or arrogance. I started logging her comings and goings, noting every late night and suspicious phone call. I checked her car's mileage against her stated destinations. It was emotionally draining, turning my home into a surveillance state, but I was beyond caring. This wasn't about catching her anymore. It was about building an undeniable, irrefutable case. I wanted to make sure there was absolutely no wiggle room for her to deny, deflect, or gaslight when the time came. I wanted to bury her under the weight of her own deceit. Every click of the camera, every recorded detail, chipped away at the raw pain and replaced it with a grim determination. The surveillance paid off, and faster than I expected. Sarah, true to form, got sloppy. One afternoon, she came home early, thinking I was still at work. My camera, triggered by motion, recorded her immediately calling someone. She was laughing, incredibly animated, talking about a crazy night and how Mark would never suspect a thing. She even mentioned a specific hotel. My blood ran cold, but I kept my poker face on for the camera. Later that week, I decided to work from home unexpectedly. Sarah, after giving me a cursory kiss goodbye, which I recoiled from internally, left for her supposed yoga class. I waited 15 minutes, then got in my car and followed her. She didn't go to the yoga studio. She drove straight to a secluded, upscale restaurant a few towns over. I parked down the street and watched. Sure enough, a few minutes later, Hot Stuff Greg pulled up. He was exactly the type of guy I expected, slick back hair, expensive suit, probably thought he was God's gift. They met inside, and I could see them through the window, laughing, touching hands across the table. It wasn't just physical. There was an undeniable chemistry, a level of intimacy she hadn't shown me in ages. I took pictures, zoomed in, documented everything. My heart was a block of ice. It was one thing to see the messages, another entirely to witness it firsthand. The sheer brazenness of it, her going on a romantic lunch date while I sat at home, thinking she was stretching into a downward dog. The betrayal tasted like ash in my mouth. I stayed hidden until they left, watching them share a lingering hug, a kiss that was definitely more than friendly. I drove home numb, but with a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't just about harmless flirting or attention. This was a full-blown affair. And I had the proof. Not just screenshots, but photographic evidence of her lies unfolding in real time. My revenge was going to be meticulous, and it was going to be spectacular. With Eleanor's guidance, I ramped up my information gathering. I had already gone through our joint expenses and identified multiple suspicious charges: hotel stays, fancy dinners, gifts, all meticulously disguised as business expenses or girls' night out. The amounts were small enough to not raise immediate alarms, but when aggregated, they told a damning story. I cross-referenced the dates with Sarah's working late nights and found perfect matches. Eleanor also suggested I look into her online presence beyond the dating app. I managed to get access to her iCloud, a shared password we had from ages ago that she clearly hadn't changed, bless her digital negligence, and found a treasure trove. Not just more explicit messages and pictures with hot stuff Greg and others, but a secret photo album of them together, even some short videos. The sheer audacity, the blatant disregard for me and our marriage was breathtaking. One video showed her laughing, telling Greg that Mark is so oblivious, he'd never know. That one stung deep. But the most damning discovery came from her work email, which I also managed to access. She had been using it to communicate with Greg and another man named David, exchanging sexually explicit messages and even coordinating meetups during work hours. Some of these involved her using company resources and time for personal, illicit activities. This wasn't just marital infidelity. This was professional misconduct, potentially grounds for dismissal, and certainly something her company's HR department would be very interested in. My blood ran cold, but I couldn't help but feel a grim satisfaction. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about her career, her reputation, and it was going to hit her harder than any divorce settlement alone could. I methodically downloaded everything, creating backups, ensuring nothing could be deleted or denied. The evidence stack was growing into an undeniable mountain, and I had the shovel. Again, if you're hooked on this ride, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to me as I navigate this hell. I continued living in the guest room, maintaining a strained but outwardly calm demeanor. Sarah, sensing my distance but still oblivious to the extent of my knowledge, continued her theatrical apologies and attempts at reconciliation. "Please, Mark," she'd say, tears welling up, "I miss you. Can't we just talk about this? I made a mistake, a stupid mistake. I love you." Each word was a fresh insult, knowing what I knew. I'd just nod vaguely, mumble something about needing space, and retreat further into myself. This controlled facade was probably the hardest part of my plan, but essential. I needed her to believe I was still wounded, still potentially open to persuasion, perhaps even weak enough to forgive. My real focus was on Eleanor and the legal strategy. We had compiled an ironclad case. The dating app screenshots, the restaurant photos, the iCloud explicit material, the detailed expense reports, and crucially, the work email correspondence. It was all neatly organized, dated, and ready to deploy. Eleanor's eyes gleamed with professional satisfaction when she saw the full package. "Mark," she said, "this isn't just a slam dunk for divorce. This is a nuclear bomb for her. We can argue for minimal spousal support, potentially even some compensation for emotional distress. And depending on how we present this to her employer, her professional life could be severely impacted." That's what I wanted. Not just a divorce, but a reckoning. We decided on the timing. I would file for divorce, and simultaneously, Eleanor would send a carefully worded, anonymous tip, complete with a selection of the damning work emails, to Sarah's company's HR and ethics department. The goal was maximum damage, maximum exposure for her hypocrisy and unprofessionalism. I didn't want to just cut ties. I wanted to sever them with a guillotine, ensuring she felt the full weight of her actions, both personally and professionally. My heart was cold, my mind clear. The man who had been heartbroken was now a strategist, meticulously planning the downfall of the woman who had brutally betrayed him. And the moment was almost here. The day I filed for divorce was surprisingly quiet. I hadn't told Sarah I was going to do it. Eleanor handled the paperwork, and it was served to her at her office. While Sarah was reeling from that, Eleanor simultaneously sent the anonymous email to her company's HR and ethics department, along with the most damaging work-related evidence. I was at home, waiting. The silence in the house was deafening. My phone rang about an hour after the papers were served. It was Sarah. Her voice was unrecognizable, A choked, hysterical wail. Mark, what I asked this? Divorce papers. And what did you do? My boss just called me into his office. He's asking about inappropriate conduct and misuse of company resources, and he showed me one of Greg's emails. How could you? You absolute monster. I let her scream for a minute, taking a perverse satisfaction in the sheer terror in her voice. When she finally paused for breath, I spoke, my voice calm, level, and utterly devoid of emotion. You brutalized me, Sarah. You lied. You cheated. You gaslit. You played me for a fool for months. You flaunted your affairs in my face and talked about how oblivious I was. You think you can do all that and just walk away clean? You think there would be no consequences? But my job, my career, this is insane, Mark. I'll lose everything. She shrieked. And I lost everything, Sarah. My trust, my peace of mind, my marriage, my future with you, all of it, because of your choices. You chose to be brutal in your betrayal, and I'm choosing to be brutal in my resolution. This is the price. You pay for what you take. She hung up on me, probably to go have a full-blown meltdown or try to salvage her rapidly imploding career. I felt nothing. No triumph, no joy, no regret. Just a profound sense of grim finality. The scales were balancing, slowly but surely. And the silence in the house, once deafening, now felt like peace. The first real peace I'd felt in months. The fallout was swift and devastating for Sarah. Within a week, she was suspended from her job, pending an internal investigation. The explicit emails and evidence of using company time and resources for her affairs were undeniable. Her professional reputation, which she had carefully cultivated, was in tatters. She called me repeatedly, alternating between furious accusations and desperate pleas, but I refused to engage beyond short, factual responses regarding the divorce proceedings, all filtered through Eleanor. The divorce itself was, as Eleanor had predicted, heavily skewed in my favor, with the mountain of evidence against her proving not just infidelity but also reckless spending of joint funds on her affairs. Sarah had no leverage. She barely fought for anything, probably too preoccupied with her career implosion. The judge granted me the house, most of the assets, and minimal spousal support, citing her egregious misconduct. It was a clean, decisive victory, legally speaking. But the real victory wasn't in the assets. It was in the shattering of her carefully constructed facade. Her perfect life, her bitchy attitude, her lies, all of it came crashing down. Friends started distancing themselves from her as news of her professional scandal and the divorce spread. Her social circle, built on appearances, quickly dissolved. She was isolated, exposed, and stripped of the comfort and superficial success she valued so much. I saw her once, months later, purely by chance, at a grocery store. She looked haggard, a shadow of her former self. No designer clothes, no expensive car. She saw me, her eyes widening in a mixture of fear and hatred. She quickly turned away, pushing her cart down another aisle. And for the first time, I felt something akin to peace. Not happiness, not satisfaction in a cruel way, but a quiet, calm resolution. The storm had passed. The scales were balanced. And I was finally, truly free. The silence after the storm was no longer deafening. It was serene. It was the sound of a new beginning. The months following the divorce were a strange mix of emptiness and quiet rebuilding. The emotional impact of the betrayal didn't just vanish with the legal victory. The phantom pains of what I thought I had, what I lost, lingered. I went to therapy, something I never thought I'd need. It helped me process the anger, the sadness, and most importantly, the profound sense of betrayal. I learned that my revenge, while brutal and effective, wasn't about finding happiness through her suffering, but about asserting my boundaries and reclaiming my life from the wreckage she'd created. My decision to take such extreme measures wasn't about being nice or fair in the traditional sense. It was about survival. She had shown me a level of contempt and deceit that demanded an equally resolute response. I realized that sometimes, in the face of brutal betrayal, you have to fight fire with fire, not out of malice, but out of self-preservation. It was about protecting myself from further emotional damage and ensuring she couldn't simply move on unscathed to hurt someone else. I reconnected with old friends, started new hobbies, and slowly, cautiously, began to trust myself again. The house, once filled with her deceit, now felt like a sanctuary. I renovated, changed decor, painted over the memories, literally and figuratively. It became my home again. I even got a new dog, a playful golden retriever named Buster, who filled the silence with joyful barks and unconditional affection. The road was long, and it was painful, but I came out on the other side. I learned that love isn't just about trust, it's about respect. And when that respect is brutally violated, you owe it to yourself to stand up, even if it means doing things you never thought you were capable of. It was a dark journey, but I emerged stronger, wiser, and with a profound understanding of what I would and would not tolerate in any future relationship. I am a different man now, forged in the fires of betrayal, but ultimately, a man free from the lies. And that, in itself, is a kind of victory. Reflecting on everything now, months down the line, I've come to a few hard-won conclusions. First and foremost, trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. I ignored so many little nudges, so many uncomfortable feelings, because I wanted to believe in the fairy tale. Don't be me. Don't let your love for someone blind you to their actions. Red flags aren't decorations, they're warnings. Second, understand that some betrayals are irreparable. Not every broken relationship can or should be fixed. When someone shows you such profound disrespect and deceit, especially over an extended period, it's not a mistake. It's a pattern, a reflection of their character. Trying to work things out with a pathological liar or a serial cheater is often just signing up for more pain. I learned the hard way that walking away, even brutally, is sometimes the only path to self-preservation. Third, when you do decide to leave, do it smart. Emotion can cloud judgment, but practical steps are crucial. Gather evidence, consult a lawyer, secure your finances. Don't let your pain turn into weakness that someone else can exploit. My brutal revenge wasn't about being evil. It was about protecting myself and ensuring accountability. It was about making sure that the person who chose to destroy my life faced real consequences, not just a slap on the wrist. Finally, allow yourself to heal. Revenge might feel satisfying in the moment, but true peace comes from within, through processing the trauma, rebuilding your life, and finding happiness independent of the person who hurt you. Therapy was invaluable for me. It allowed me to move past the anger and focus on my future. I'm not looking for love right now, but I'm open to it eventually. And when I do find it, I'll be bringing a much stronger, more resilient, and far less naive version of myself to the table. This whole horrific experience has taught me a brutal lesson, but it's one I needed to learn to truly value myself. Thanks for letting me share my story. One unexpected side effect of all this upheaval was finding my voice again. For so long, I had walked on eggshells with Sarah, constantly deferring, constantly trying to appease her ever-shifting moods. Her bitchy nature meant I often stayed quiet to avoid an argument, or simply accepted her version of events to keep the peace. The betrayal, however, shattered that passive pattern. When everything was laid bare, I had no reason to hold back. I found a strength I didn't know I possessed, a willingness to confront ugly truths, not just with her, but with myself. This newfound assertiveness spilled over into other areas of my life. At work, where I'd always been competent but somewhat quiet, I started speaking up more, offering bolder ideas, and even challenging my boss on a few strategic decisions, respectfully, of course. To my surprise, it was met with positive reception, not resentment. It was like a dormant part of me had been reawakened, a part that wasn't afraid to take up space and express its needs and opinions. My relationships with friends also deepened. I had been isolated by Sarah's subtle manipulations for years. She always made me feel guilty for wanting to spend time with my own friends, preferring that our social circle be her social circle. After the divorce, I actively reached out. Some friends were shocked by what had happened, offering unwavering support. Others, who had seen through Sarah's facade years ago, simply gave me a knowing look and an embrace. Reconnecting with them, authentically, without the filtering or monitoring presence of Sarah, was incredibly liberating. It showed me how much of my own identity I had sacrificed for a false sense of peace. That, in itself, was a powerful lesson. You lose yourself when you enable someone else's lies. The hardest part of rebuilding wasn't just fixing what she broke, but reevaluating everything I thought I knew about relationships and people. I spent a lot of time dissecting my own role in all of it. Not to blame myself for her actions, because that's a dangerous road, but to understand why I was so susceptible, why I ignored the signs for so long. I realized I had a tendency to be a fixer, always wanting to smooth things over, to make people happy, even at my own expense. Sarah, with her volatile personality and constant need for validation, exploited that perfectly. This self-reflection was brutal in its own way, forcing me to confront my own weaknesses and insecurities. It wasn't just about her betrayal. It was about my own complicity in allowing it to fester. I realized I had conflated peace with avoiding conflict and stability with blind loyalty. This meant learning to set firmer boundaries, to say no without guilt, and to trust my own judgment, even when it led to uncomfortable confrontations. Dating again is not on the immediate horizon. The idea still feels foreign, almost impossible. How do you trust someone again after such a catastrophic betrayal? The thought of being vulnerable, of opening myself up to that kind of pain again, is terrifying. But I'm also not closing myself off completely. I understand that Sarah's actions don't define every woman or every relationship. It's a slow process of unlearning and relearning, of accepting that hurt is a part of life, but it doesn't have to be the end of it. My therapist calls it recalibrating your trust meter. It's definitely an ongoing project, and one that I know will take a lot more time and effort. For now, I'm focusing on becoming the best version of me, someone who can stand strong on his own, regardless of who else is in his life.